All right. Welcome everyone to the space. Am I audible? Yes, I think I am. All right. So we still got a couple more speakers coming, but not everyone can make the full hour. So we're gonna get the show on the road as soon as we can. Um, so yeah, some speakers are dropping early. Just know that. So welcome everyone. I'm Helix. I do growth at MetricsDAO for about a year now. I'm a marketeer with some analyst experience and therefore a big believer of making data-driven decisions. And I love bringing this community together to connect and learn with MetricsDAO. So what's MetricsDAO? MetricsDAO is a community of Web3 data analysts, and with us you can earn, learn, and connect. So we got analytics challenges, we got courses and webinars. Of course, we got our Discord with community calls and this weekly Twitter space on the hottest topics in Web3, always approached with data-driven insights from top analysts and researchers in the space. And we got a bunch of them today. Um, Not everyone is here yet, although more are coming, I see. First off, we got Domo Data, live from the Ordinals conference and creator of the BRC 20 protocol. We got Andrew Hong. He's not here yet, but he might be coming later. Headmaster at Dune. We got Kunal Gul. I hope I'm not butchering it, man. I'm sorry. I'll let everyone introduce in a second themselves as well. Analyst at Mazari. Then we got from 21 shares, both Tom Wan, welcome, sir, and OX Carlos G. Nice to make the acquaintance. Very excited about today. Hey there, hey there. We got Crypto Corio, analyst, writer, and trader. Um, yeah, and that's it, guys. Welcome to the space. Please also tell us a little bit more, all of you, a little bit more about your background, and especially as how it relates to today's topic.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'll just start first if you don't mind. My name is Tom. I'm from 21 Shares. We previously did some analysis on Bitcoin overall. We actually learned a lot from Andrew, so shout out to Andrew on his analysis on ordinals, and his guide on Bitcoin is amazing, so check that out. And we also learned a lot from Data Always, like Data Always and Andrew Hong is the first one to analyze ordinals, I think, on Dune. So we learned a lot from their queries and stuff. And recently we learned more about BRC 20. Crypto Coroyo is someone I learned a lot. And Domo, definitely an inventor of BRC 20. That's something we have been looking at. But basically, that's it. We have been building Dune dashboards, sharing analysis regarding Bitcoin and BRC20. So 21 Shares is a largest ETF issuer right now, mostly in Europe businesses, but we also offer high quality research, not only on-chain data, but we also have newsletter, so on and so forth. Thank you for having me again, and excited to chat with really talented analysts here.
I guess I'll just go next because I work very closely with Tom. So my name is Carlos. I'm a research analyst at 21 Shares, and we got very excited about BRC20 and Bitcoin ordinals. I guess I would consider myself a beginner in all of this, so I'm really excited to learn from all of you, and especially from the creator of BRC20, who we have the honor of having here. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation with all of you.
Maybe I'll go next. Just first of all, can you hear me? This is the quietest spot I could find. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Loud and clear.
All right, awesome. Yeah, nice to meet you all. I'm Domo. I have a background in data analytics, and I'm an on-chain data enthusiast. BRC20 was just a project of mine, meant to be a cool Dune dashboard, and we are where we are now. But yeah, I have a background in on-chain data across various chains. Nice to meet you all.
I guess I think I'm last. I'm not sure. I'll give a quick intro. Headmaster over at Dune, just trying to get as many people as we can into the blockchain analytics space. yeah, early on tried to get everyone organized and started analyzing ordinals. Haven't followed super closely in all of the activities since, but it's really exciting to see kind of people keep innovating on this standard. Lots of thoughts.
Hey guys, so I'm Corio, I'm a data scientist, and actually I'm doing a lot of content creation and also a lot of Dune dashboards recently this year. And the way I discovered actually about BRC20 is that I'm a narrative trader, so I'm always looking for new trends, new narratives, new ideas to write about. And I actually discovered it on Twitter from my friend Francesco Web3, who wrote a thread about it, and then actually I went deeper, and here we are, and I'm really happy to be here on this panel with you guys.
Hi guys, this is my second panel now with MetricsDAO. I'm Kunal. I'm a senior research analyst with Missouri. Most of you would have heard of Missouri, but we're the leading provider of research and data in crypto. I'm excited to be on this panel with everyone. Thank you again, MetricsDAO, for inviting me. I recently did a report on ordinals and BRC20s, mostly covering what I expect, what their current impact is on Bitcoin and what it means for them in the future. I'm excited to hear from everyone on this panel, and I'm a learner in this space.
As are we all. Thank you for those introductions, guys. To the audience, if you don't follow them yet, give them all a follow. These are some amazing speakers we got lined up here, and I'm very excited to learn a lot today, as I think we all are. Okay, so before we get started, or as we get started, um, okay, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm a bit of a noob on all this. I'm not the Giga Chat brain in the room here, but that's okay because probably a lot of people in the audience are wondering the same things, right? So, what are ordinals? What are inscriptions? What is Ordi? What is BRC20? And how do they all relate? Domo, I think you're the one best to take it off here, but the other guys definitely feel free to jump in and add anything. So a basic introduction. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, sure. I'm in an ordinals conference right now, but by no means am I an expert on ordinals or inscriptions themselves. I can maybe leave that to someone that works on the protocol to talk further. But at its basic core, as it relates to data and data science, I would say ordinal theory is the idea that Satoshis are numbered with a basic accounting principle called FIFO, first in, first out, and you can track these Satoshis' journey over a period of time through their transfers since inception. And that's one side. That's the ordinal theory. Inscriptions are the first use case on ordinal theory, where you are attaching a data blob to an inscription, which lives on in the current implementation forever. And you can Casey, who invented ordinal theory, came up with this idea that you can insert data and you can attach it to a Satoshi, which kind of represents the token, whereas the data is the image, or in this case, JSON. I don't know if I did a great job explaining it, but what we can do as data analysts is we can then track the journey of these Satoshis, and you can read the data on top of it, and you can make all sorts of meta protocols on top of this. So the first being .sats names, where I got my inspiration, and then from there I took created BRC20, which is the same idea, where it's JSON inscriptions. So you're putting raw text data out there. Anyone can do it through a full node inscription service. And if you follow the rules of the protocol, you can kind of derive some sort of semi-fungible standard. And that's the basic premise of BRC20.
Thanks a lot, Domo. I think Domo must be the expert in this space for inscription. I don't think we have a lot of things to add, but just some history about how ordinals can happen. Like previously, in early Bitcoin stage, I'm sure that it is not easy for Bitcoin to do some similar technology like NFTs or tokens, right? But with the upgrade of SegWit and Taproot in 2017, and 2021, it allows like arbitrary data like text, image, text, including JSON file, and even video can sort in the witness data. And therefore, after the audience theory, we have seen that the witness data in the Bitcoin blockchain has increased in size tremendously. And one thing to note is when we are comparing BRC20 to ERC20, right? ERC20 is a really familiar token standard for a lot of people on the Ethereum blockchain, right? But one key difference I would like to highlight is this smart contract capability is not available on Bitcoin BRC20. It is mainly using inscription. As Domo also mentioned, it is kind of like an ordering methodology on a Bitcoin network. So with the absence of smart contract capability of BRC20, it is kind of hard to do some functions similar to ERC20s. For example, ERC20, you can do some governance, graphing sharing, but as of right now, this is something we're lacking on the BRC20 token space right now. I'll share it to you. Like, Andrew, do you have any thoughts on that? Sorry, just tagging Andrew, or if anyone who want to.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, Andrew, do you have any insights? Because I read your guide on how to analyze Bitcoin, and during that time you gave a really comprehensive history of how Bitcoin works and extended to ordinals as well, I believe. So I'm sure you have more things to add about like Bitcoin history, how it allows ordinals to happen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can give some insight. Yeah, I think coming from obviously an Ethereum background, my brain was completely tied to like trying to find like the equivalent of a smart contract. And I think looking at Bitcoin history, it's very like the decentralization aspect plays a big part in how these like quote unquote contracts are formed, right? They're completely like social contracts, like when you inscribe an ordinal, it's not like you're calling a function that then does everything for you. You have to prepare everything exactly as like the social standard has defined, and like some of that's abstracted into wallets, but like I think early on when ordinals were first deployed, like, or inscriptions, I guess, like you saw people doing things in the wrong way or different ways, or like transferring and like breaking things in weird ways, just because like it's not a contract, it's like very much like it's a social agreed upon like pattern of codes.
A big handshake, I like to call it. A big handshake.
Yeah, exactly. It's like handshake, and I think that makes things pretty hard to technically build upon and expand upon. I think that personally is one reason why it's like slower to like then build like 100 or something protocols on top of it, because it's like, oh wait, who decides how to change or extend the standard? How do you pass this through? Like I think that's kind of all of Bitcoin. Like you see this a lot even when you look at like even when like multi-sigs were first defined, like the order in which you lock and unlock signatures. And like there was still like a mess up there where people thought they agreed upon something and then there's something slightly weird with it, but now everyone has to deal with that like little mistake in the signatures where there's like an extra zero for multi-sigs. But yeah, it's just so interesting to have programs that are like socially evolving, like someone could try and push for inscriptions to be like made slightly different, and then if enough platforms and people adopted it, then that would become the new inscription standard, but like nothing new was actually deployed. It's just super interesting, but very, very different from like I would say how every other blockchain does things.
So just want to come in here. Do you like, this is like a great point that it's not sort of contractually enforced by Bitcoin or like any network, but I feel that is also like saying that you can right click save an NFT on Ethereum, right? So that was like one of the primary criticisms that, why is this picture of an ape any more rare than, just any other picture? But I think it was perhaps like this, like, we collectively have this delusion that if your wallet holds that, specific NFT, you're the rightful owner of it. And I think it's largely a social construct. So like, like on on Twitter, you can have the NFT profile picture, and Twitter enforces that with like a connection to Ethereum. I think this should be possible perhaps with ordinals and inscriptions as well. And then that makes it as real as any other NFT. Would you agree or disagree? Perhaps Domo or anyone can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Casey has said a long time that it's a collective hallucination, right? And I would say BRC20 is a collective hallucination on top of a collective hallucination at its core. So I would totally agree.
Tom actually started with the history of Bitcoin Taproot, and it was interesting. I was looking this morning about actually what led to BRC20s. So November 21, Bitcoin Taproot. Then, as far as I could find, end of January this year, NFT ordinals came on Bitcoin. Very quickly, we had new wallets, new solutions for Bitcoin. And then actually we had Bitcoin domains that came shortly after. Then Redphone wrote about it 5th of March, and Domo implemented it 9th of March. And from there, again, very quickly, we had integrations with for ordinals and BRC20s. Things went very fast. Domo, you want to comment on that? It was really interesting to see how fast things developed and how actually the market cap skyrocketed very, very quickly.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I think it was exciting initially and then scary after a certain point, if I'm being honest. I think a certain amount of my design decisions contributed to that. Not intentionally. I was just making a fun dashboard. That was my intentions. But the fact that the mint kind of creates attention because it raises fees and has each inscription visible on the Ordinals Explorer was kind of like a fuel to the fire, if you will, from a hindsight perspective. So I think that contributed greatly to its rise. And then what I've noticed is the two legs of adoption have occurred immediately after a new service has been implemented that kind of enables speculation. So the first leg, I would say, is the initial hype of it. The second was when OrdSwap enabled their BRC20 OTC desk, and people were seeing that these were trading for actual real money. And then third was when Unisat came online with their product. So that's just some observations in hindsight. As I said before, none of this I ever dreamed of. I think the best thing I was really hoping for was that maybe some NFT archaeologists would find my inscriptions for the tests in 5 years and think it'd be cool and then make their own kind of rediscovery of it. But yeah, really, it's exceeded all expectations and just doing my best to steer it in the positive direction at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, I was reading your Git book, and it was saying actually these tokens are worthless, guys. This is just an experiment. Be careful. Actually, you warned everybody that this might be risky, but things, once you put out in crypto, people are here to, experiment, and especially when there are profits to be made. And it's really interesting how it developed further afterward. One point I would add is that I don't know how much is correlated, but it came actually at the moment where we had the memes actually started to trend, with Pepe and all these things, and actually maybe also maybe a question: how much of it you think is actually related to the meme craze? Because on BRC20 we saw very quickly actually mostly about memes, and even Pepe and other things, and were among the first BRC20 tokens. So here, maybe it was a luck about the timing that all of a sudden the hype came. It was really interesting for me to see. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, of course, I could never have guessed the timing. I think Pepe was deployed in mid-April, so that was definitely fortuitous in terms of its growth. I can definitely not deny that played an element. I almost wish it didn't though, because it would have given me more time to kind of work on shoring up the indexers, the social agreements that is in place, getting everyone coordinated. But we are where we are today, and I think that's going in a positive direction.
Domo, you mentioned about indexer, right? I think that's a really interesting point right now, because in your documentation you mentioned like indexing is one of the hardest thing, right? Like when you first launch, right? That could be potential concern if there's not enough indexing. Like people just trade OTC, trade through Discord, they might not be safe, they might be scam. But right now, when you're seeing some centralized exchanges launching this effort, right? They're doing the indexing for all the BRC20 trades. Do you see it as a good trend, or do you see there is some more effort that has to be done for like the base layer or the developers of Bitcoin instead of like centralized providers?
So I can't speak for centralized providers, but there's definitely work to do on the indexing front. I think there's 3, 4, maybe 5 indexers right now that are all stating the same truth. They have alignment. But of course, like the more decentralized this is, the better. And I think at one point what needs to be done is almost like an indexer of indexers. So the way it would work is you'd have a site that compares the state of all these different indexers with a certain metric, the uptime, the latency, kind of like you have with RPCs on Ethereum. And then you can kind of see what that source of truth is collectively amongst a group of indexers. And if one starts to diverge from that, that's almost like a reputational risk for them. And they, instead of incentivizing, it's decentivizing from straying from the truth in the short term. And then in the long term, I think my focus will be to provide incentives to reward indexers for continuing to say the one source of truth.
One thing I find really interesting of ordinals is the effects, and BRC20s is the effects it has had on the fees, on the fee market on Bitcoin. So fees have increased significantly over the past few months. And I'm just wondering if this has, how sustainable you think this trend is, and how can this impact the long-term security budget of Bitcoin? Because as block rewards goes down, a lot of people are worried in the long term that Bitcoin's long-term security outlook is bleak. And with this kind of developments and this kind of new vertical of activity on Bitcoin, we have seen an increase in transaction fees that can potentially make up for that in the long term. So I'm right now we are mainly seeing meme coins with BRC20s, but I'm wondering if this is just like a Trojan horse for new kinds of applications that are built on top of Bitcoin, or if it's the segue for developments of layer twos like stacks that will bring like just new activity on Bitcoin and will move it away from just a store of value asset into something else, and that can potentially solve the long-term security of the network. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not sure if BRC20 will be around in a month, a year, et cetera, et cetera. But if it had one thing that I would hope as its legacy is that it kind of gave an aha moment to other developers that you can actually use layer 1 Bitcoin to do interesting stuff. And I think as a result of that, I think fees will be sustained at least a moderate level for the foreseeable future. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, on this, I think BRC20s get like a bad rep unnecessarily. So even the activity on other smart contract platforms like Ethereum, Solana, whatever, right? A lot of it is largely driven by speculation. So it's not, I mean, Shiba Inu is the largest ERC20 token by market cap. And it's not necessarily true that what drives the fees for Ethereum today or the fees for Solana today will be what eventually drives that fees, right? That's no one really thinks that if we onboard like 1 billion people, we'll still be speculating on like Pepe. We believe that there will be more use cases. So I think Domo is like exactly right, where this hopefully is, like this is the catalyst to bring on more development activity to Bitcoin and show that things are possible there. And it's really great to see also how quickly infrastructure has come up. Like, I don't know about Domo, but I wouldn't have guessed that there would already be multiple wallets, multiple sort of trading venues for BRC20s, for inscriptions. And it just shows that the Bitcoin community was raring to go for any kind of sort of innovation on Bitcoin. And now that it's here, I think, I hope there will be no sort of looking back from here.
An interesting protocol that our research team, Adrian, he shared to me is Alex DEXs on Stacks. So this is a really interesting protocol, as I think it's one of the first decentralized exchange that implemented BRC20 trading. So on that front, obviously this is really exciting, but then since I'm not into the tech nitty-gritty, some concern that would make me worried. So not only the low volume, not only about the low liquidity, but also the tech itself, because it is kind of locking the BRC20 on one end, and on the other end, it's using stacks as the bit side liquidity. So our side is on the Bitcoin network, and then the bit side is on the stacks network. So I'm interested in how do you guys think of this mechanism, because on Ethereum, there are a lot of hacks which is related to multi-sig wallet, multi-sig breach. And this mechanism is definitely really nascent, and would love to see what do you guys thought about that.
Yeah, maybe I can give my thoughts. So I think that, as Domo said, these are, for the moment, it's mostly about experiments on Bitcoin blockchain. Because if you look at Ethereum, for example, there is like years of development and a very large number of developers working on different issues that blockchain can have, like scalability, decentralization, security, all these things. And as we can see with Ethereum and with the failure of many other L1s, it's not easy. It's not easy to have a ecosystem where you have a lot of transactions, where you want scalability, decentralization, all these things. And for now, Bitcoin was mainly used as a store of value, maybe just a medium of exchange of just payments. So it wasn't actually really part of this. It didn't have all these challenges, and it wasn't designed for it. Actually, it wasn't maybe how Satoshi view it. But now actually these experiments, and actually we saw, actually somebody mentioned about the fees. We saw really actually at one point, I think it was earlier this month, there was a day actually that we had more fees generated by BRC20 tokens than any other thing from the Bitcoin blockchain. And this is already a scalability issue. And for me, it's, yeah, sure, there are now more and more projects working on Bitcoin. There are layer 2 for Bitcoin, but I'm not sure actually what's the future for Bitcoin in terms of functionality, smart contracts. Will it come to Bitcoin? Maybe, maybe not. But maybe then it will also lose what's currently some of its strength. And it's also interesting because you have Bitcoin maxis that they were also always, talking like about, yeah, like talking badly maybe about Ethereum and other blockchains, but now actually with all what's happening on Bitcoin and Ordinals, it's interesting to see what they think, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, guys, about that.
Yeah, I just want to the question, I guess it was regarding bridging and wrapping. Kind of my latest thoughts about BRC20 in regards to this is that my main job, whilst I'm the sole proprietor of the standard itself before it's perhaps handed over to a group or organization, is to maintain that the social handshake amongst the indexers maintains, right? That's my only job at the moment. And in order to do so, I think I need to stick with the principles that have made BRC20 successful, and that's the simplicity. I think adding all sorts of complexity too soon, too early, or even ever could wreck that simplicity and disrupt the social handshake that's kind of ensured that it's maintained its functionality. So I'm starting to think that maybe these bridges, these wrappers, may be required if people want to use BRC20 in more advanced functions. But that's just some of my latest thinking. Not set on it, but I think this aspect of centralization may be a necessity to ensure if people want to do these kind of DEX, loans, staking functions, et cetera, et cetera.
That's really good insight, especially when we're seeing more and more centralized exchange like Gate.io, who will be launching support with BRC20. Of course, it is easier for people to trust them, not just some random indexer, right? But then Domo is doing a really good job in aligning each indexer, ensuring they're doing a correct way to index all the BRC20 tokens. And one thing I also want to add with Carlos' point and Crypto Kuroyo's point is like the fees are skyrocketing with BRC20. Like previously, when we are in the very first phase of ordinals, when ordinals reach 1 million, people are already super surprised. Like ordinals is a sensation right now, but with BRC20, it got us to another level with 7 million inscription right now. I think mostly it's because of like the transfer inscription, if I'm not mistaken, because when you do transfer, you need to inscribe an ordinals as well. And therefore, when people are trading BRC20, it got the fees really high because when you do transfer, you need to inscribe. And there's a really good point Kuroyo's mentioned is on some dates, the block fee actually surpassed the block reward. So that's an interesting data that haven't occurred frequently previously. And on the 8th of May, it actually happens 11 times, which is the highest date of all time. So that's something that is interesting that we haven't seen previously. And regarding the security budget in the future, like just my opinion, right? I'm not sure how sustainable BRC20 would be. Maybe it would expand to layer 2 solutions. Maybe it will stay on the main chain. But regardless of that, I think the future security budget would be mainly relying on like security layer 2 solution like stacks, as Carlos mentioned, because obviously it can also provide an additional source of revenue for the miners as well. And as the congestion on Bitcoin network, it is also highlighting the scalability constraint of Bitcoin. And actually, when this scalability issue happening on the Bitcoin main chain, a lot of the users actually switched to stacks. And we have seen the activities on stacks spiked on those days specifically. Carlos, do you have anything to add on that front?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting dynamic. I think another point that we should point out is that when fees skyrocketed at the beginning of May, we saw a very big drop in the number of daily active users, which can be proxied by the number of unique wallets interacting with the Bitcoin blockchain, which dropped from about, let's say, like 600,000 to 200,000 wallets on the day with the biggest fees. So I think it's interesting how this increase in fees can be good for the miners, but it can also price out many of the Bitcoin regular users. And I think that's where it becomes an interesting play of will we need scaling solutions if fees stay this high, or will regular users just have to settle for waiting higher times for their transactions to settle? And so I think it's a really interesting it's a really interesting topic, and I think it's great to see a resurgence in Bitcoin activity, and especially a revival, I would say, in the mindset of Bitcoin builders.
Just a fun fact, I was talking with like some of my VC friends recently with the recent resurgence of activities and interests of Bitcoin, like Ordinals and BRC20 and the scalability constraint as well. A lot of the new pitches is moving to a Bitcoin scaling solution. So a lot of the new projects is pitching, like, hey, we're building a CK layer 2, a Bitcoin EVM sidechain, something like that. Even though I haven't read those pitch deck yet, but I'm excited to see more innovations, as Carlos mentioned. Like previously, we haven't seen that because like it is boring, but yeah, it's doing its job as a store of value, right? But now we have more exciting activities, catching more eyeballs. I think overall it's still net good.
Yeah, at that point, actually, I was looking today on MetricsDAO, which is an incubator, and yesterday they published a paper about their latest cohort, and for the first time they were mentioning that one of the projects, which is Xverse, was about Bitcoin, actually. So for the first time they had a Bitcoin project. For now, I've only seen actually wallet projects on Bitcoin. But yes, it's interesting to see how it's going to develop. But already from you mentioned about VCs, from incubations, we are seeing also some kind of Bitcoin projects, which is interesting.
Hey everyone, I just want to cut in real fast. I had a request to speak from David, aka Megafund. He's the tokenomics expert at Binance. So I want to give him an all-time great collaborator, by the way. So I want to give him a shot. David, what's up?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Quick question. So, yeah, I'm actually one of those VCs you speak of. I'm managing director of Binance Labs, and I run our investments, but also kind of our token engineering programs. I'm also a contributor at MetricsDAO, and I think this is a great conversation. And I think all you guys kind of were spot on about a lot of the pitch decks we as VCs see now are around like these different innovations for BRC 20 or ordinals, which I think is fantastic. But they're not super interesting, right? I think on one level, you get a lot of infra, so wallets, which I guess it's good to have that. But then the other application you see is like just trading mechanisms, like dexes and things like that. What do you guys think would be kind of the next steps to see like how far this thing goes? Because I think Damo, you made a good point. Like it might not be around in a year, which I think would be unfortunate, but I think it unlocks a ton of different use cases and experimentation. But to get us to that year and beyond, and to drive like real adoption and real use cases, what do you think are some of the toolings that we need to kind of see that and spark that innovation?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, just wanted to preface, like, or just revisit that. Like, I hope it's still around in a year, and I think, and it's going to be around in eternity because it's on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's just, I mean, who knows what other innovations will come up in the future. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. What I would like to see more of is things that are only possible on Bitcoin. I think it's kind of boring when people are trying to rehash things that are happening on EVM chains or Solana onto the Bitcoin blockchain. But the uniqueness of the Bitcoin blockchain compared to these EVM chains, I think, whilst it's constrained in many ways, it opens the door for a lot of other things as well. So I would like to see like true innovation, new ideas, first of all, and then kind of on the tangential to BRC20, like this kind of data layer that is opens up a whole lot of other ideas. So .sats names was the first one. There's been a new standard. There's been BRC20. I just know that if people really think about it, there's going to be a whole lot of more interesting things that can come out of this. So that's my latest thoughts.
I also think it will spark more interest into like the Bitcoin ecosystem as a whole, right? And some innovation I think it's already been implementing, even though it's not like a paradigm shifting innovation, right? But we're seeing some new technology or methodology that has been emerging for handling the trading activities for ordinals or the DEXs, like the partial signed transaction that Gamma is using, Magic Eden is using for handling and trading the ordinals NFTs. And in the future, what I am foreseeing, just my vision, right? I'm foreseeing like BRC20 is a good start, and it will spark more innovation, right? As David, Domo, Aaron just said, more innovation will be happen, but not necessarily need to be on the base chain, right? Stacks, they provide smart contract capabilities. Maybe they can be a BRC20 on the main chain, but could be an app on Stacks so that these can integrate together in the future, right? No one has a magic ball, but definitely super exciting to see how it pans out in the future.
On my side, actually, I think the best case scenario for Bitcoin blockchain with the recent innovations would be to have something like Ethereum at the end. So it would be Bitcoin would be another blockchain where you would have all of the things that you have on Ethereum and other blockchains. For example, lending and borrowing, NFT marketplaces, derivatives. Maybe even liquid staking for Bitcoin. Who knows? All these things that we have, maybe a lot of different projects, tokens, an entire rich ecosystem on Bitcoin. Although I'm not very sure about it, but I think that would be the best case scenario for Bitcoin is becoming actually kind of much more functional blockchain. I think, yeah, that would be like the best case, let's say.
Yeah, I think I would agree on that. But I think like one of the main value propositions of Bitcoin is that it optimizes for durability and decentralization at the base layer. So I think we could see something like what Tom has expressed, which is Bitcoin as a kind of like a data availability layer, like Ethereum, and then layer twos like Lightning Network, stacks or whatever built on top of it for different functionalities that actually um, extend its use cases beyond a store of value asset and solve its long term security issue. I don't think with Bitcoin will ever, in my opinion, will ever move away from the proof of work consensus mechanism. Although who knows? But in this case, it is very important that a sustainable fee market arises on Bitcoin that can contribute to its long-term security.
Also, one thing I was discussing with Carlos previously is the potential emergence of MEV, like MEV. This is a really interesting topic that is yet to explore because, like, right now we're still at the beginning, right? But potentially, if BRC20 market gets more exciting, larger, it already got really large previously, but 1 billion market cap with the total sector, right? As an emerging sector is really huge. And with more taxes, marketplaces implementing, potentially MEV could launch on the Bitcoin base layer, as Data always already did some analysis on MEV, and minting activities could potentially shows MEV activities, definitely, because if a new token got deployed and it is very valuable, some miner potentially front run the potential minting capabilities because they got the core location, right? Similar to what traditional finance trading firm has. And potentially, if that BRC20 is available, they can do all the minting services, which might be concerning, but I would love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean the minting function, like again, like the kind of inspiration behind that was that I was new to Bitcoin in terms of the developing world. I knew that as a mainly Ethereum person in the past, if I did anything extractive with my experiment, I would have been hung, drawn, and quartered by the maxis. So I wanted it to be as fair as possible, and at the time, this is the way I discovered it. Obviously, I could have foreseen the growth, and maybe in the future, new ways to distribute mints is required. But until then, I think it's a good mechanism to ensure fair launches.
Right, totally agree. Like right now, what we're seeing on Ethereum is, for example, some projects, even though they are incentivizing usage on their protocol by doing yield farming, right? Some large VCs can potentially just deposit a huge amount of deposit, right? And then they can get a huge chunk of tokens from there. So definitely not a really desirable way to decentralize your token. But Domo, I think you have a really good vision here. Is making it as fair as possible as you can, even though the design is simple, but then you incorporate some really good ethos here, because like Bitcoin as at its original vision by Satoshi is also being a neutral base layer for everyone to use, right? A store value or for a merchant payment anyways, right? So I think you did a really good job and a really interesting mechanism here.
Yeah, and the two things I want people to kind of remember with BRC20 is to have fun and just have fair if you're launching one. So it seems that most people are getting that, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, real quick, that to me, absolutely fantastic. And I say that as a VC, I think that we've seen so many like malpractices in the space, like, look no further than like 6, 12 months ago. And I think that fair launch and fair opportunity, I think is super important. And that's kind of why we're all here in Web3. So congrats on that, man. That's like great stuff.
Yeah, I think some of the most successful projects that we've had in the space have had fair launches with, I mean, Bitcoin being one of them. And I had like a funny tweet saying that maybe even Yearn Finance was one of them, like the valueless governance token with with a fair launch. Domo, I had a question for you. Do you like what is your wish list for where BRC20s or ordinals and inscriptions go? If you knew a couple of months back what you knew today, what would you do differently, and how would you see this space evolving?
Yeah, it's a good question. To be honest, in terms of the core design of the protocol, how the functions work, I might add some more optionality in the deployment functions. The transfer function, I wouldn't change a thing. I think that works as designed. It works very well. I'm yet to see a competing standard come up with a better design in terms of transferring. Yeah, basically. What I'd like to see in the future, actually, so some things that could be improved is non-state altering updates. So what do I mean by that? So not core function additions, nothing that actually changes the base balance state of the experiment. But things like, okay, well, in the future, does it really need to be human readable? Probably not. That was just like, to be honest, it was just like, I think a lot of maxis accuse me of malice, but there's that expression, which is like, do you not attribute malice to what you can attribute stupidity? And that is kind of a lot of where my design decisions came from, such as the human readable thing. So that could change in the future. It doesn't necessarily need to live in the ordinal envelope in the future. That's probably a fairly easy transition in the future if there's a team to help me, et cetera, et cetera. But those kind of things are my focus on. And then, of course, just ensuring the continued robust indexing of the standard and make sure that people are playing by the rules in whether incentive or disincentive methods we can devise. So that's my main thinking at the moment.
Another question for you, Domo, is actually quickly after you launched BRC20, we saw other standards like SRC20, ORC20, even I saw DRC20 on Dogecoin. I haven't followed them closely. What are your thoughts on that? Are there kind of any innovation on them? How do you see the development here?
Yeah, I mean, my Git book from day one has said that by no means is like, by all means, experiment. I hope people take this and run with it and make more interesting things, et cetera, et cetera. For those specific standards, I think a lot of what they bring to the table and what people like is the namespace functions that they have. So, for instance, 1, 2, 3-letter tickers. But I don't really think that's a product or a feature in itself. That's just short-term speculation. I think the real core thing of why BRC20 has been successful is the transfer function itself and how it lends its hands to PSBT trades. And I think that's something I haven't seen feasible in another way devised by any of these standards. So, of course, I would like to see more people come out with standards. If they're additive to BRC20, great. But if they come up with a completely different innovation that changes the game, of course, like that's amazing. So that's my thoughts.
I got another question to the speakers here. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so also want to wrap up a bit. And with that in thought, I think it's a nice idea to to people in the audience who think, hey, these are some awesome developments going on. I want to get more involved. What are some good directions to point them in, like starting points for resources? But also, if there are analysts in the audience, what would be like good starting points for them for additional research on this that hasn't been done yet?
For me, what I usually do, like deep dive analysis, my go-to platform is obviously Dune. Like there are a bunch of really talented analysts. Of course, our team is really talented as well. We produce a lot of high-quality Dune dashboard, but Crypto Royal is one of the analysts I look into his dashboard a lot. And then Domo. Previously, I was known with his Dune dashboard. He was tracking audience market data, and suddenly he became a creator of BRC 20, right? Like, of course, Dune and it's definitely one of the really nice platform, right? And of course, you can also track on-chain data from other data platform as well, and really good resources, including I recently heard a really good podcast from Unchained, Laura Sheen with Dan Held. So that is something is really easy to digest and suggest everyone to check that out. Is explain the vision of Bitcoin and ordinals and how it accepts BRC20 and their vision in the future. So highly suggested.
Yeah, and then from my side, if you're interested in indexing, like please reach out. Like we have like quite a close and strong community of indexers, and the more that grows with time, the better. I think in the coming weeks it will become more easy in terms of how to kind of replicate the state of Unisat or best in slot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just the more groups of people agreeing on that one source of truth, the better. So yeah, that's why I'd encourage people to get up to speed with actual on-chain data functions, and then help the indexer side of things.
So I fully agree on my side with Tom on Dune. Actually, I think it has a lot of value. But for me, Dune was a true inspiration because I was also talking to him, and he was actually just, he was also a Dune wizard and looking into the blockchain data, and all of a sudden he came up with BRC20, which is ingenious, and I think people should look more on blockchain data, trying to just, see the data, play with it, see what you can do with it, get ideas. I think that's the best way of doing it, and actually Domo has proven it. So this is also why I'm on my side putting more effort, being inspired by Domo on looking more in depth actually on everything on chain, being on Dune or other platforms.
Awesome. So, yeah, somebody wanted to speak. Oh, that's just me,
Yeah.
maybe. Domo,
No,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, shout out Dune. Like this wouldn't have been possible without Dune. So yeah, shout out Dune.
I was gonna say just that. Like, first off, Dune gets a lot of shout outs as usual. Um, and rightly so. Huge resource in the space. Even like just to prepare for this space, this talk, this panel. Obviously, I was looking at Dune panels from Tom and from Corio. Um, so yeah, okay. Dune, if you want to know more. Also, maybe check out Unchained from Larry Shan. More practically, if you want to get involved, maybe at indexing, reach out to Domo. So those would be great starting points. Also, I'd say to the audience, give everyone from the panel here a follow. Lots of insights today, but you'll also learn that they got lots of good dashboards, newsletters, just post insightful stuff or funny stuff sometimes. Got to mix it up. So definitely give them a follow. I want to remind everyone of next session, which will be Thursday, 25th of May at 12 p.m. Eastern, same time. I'll drop the link in the comments. Yeah, before I close it out, I want to give the speakers a chance to point anyone in a direction that they want to find more of their work. whether it's a website, newsletters, dashboards, anything like that. Go ahead, guys.
Me and Carlos is from 21 Shares, right? So we truly believe, and I think it really is, the best platform to learn about crypto is our research. So go to our website, 21 Shares, and then we have newsletter, different type of updated research on different topics, and of course our Dune dashboard as well. We got a really interesting stuff going on over there. And Carlos is also our newest Dune wizard as well, really talented. And give him a follow if you want his updated insight as well.
I'll go next. Yes, my BRC 20 report on like ordinal descriptions, all of that is free on Missouri. So I think you can access that and see what kind of reports we put out. I believe there's a discount code that is live as well, and you'll get 10% off your Missouri subscription. And it's like fairly affordable if I say so myself. Other than that, thank you for having me on the panel. Great to talk to everyone. I'll just add that any analyst in the space that want to get involved, just be infinitely curious and buy some BRC 20s yourself, or just like experiment with it as much as you can. I think that's the way for me to learn, and to be like infinitely curious is what is needed.
Not financial advice, right?
Not financial advice. Not I don't hold any of them myself, but it's the best way to learn. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to mirror Kunal's thoughts regarding just the curiosity. Like, I don't have, like, other than my Twitter, I don't have any platform that I share my views other than the Git book that I initially published. But I would just encourage everyone to experiment with on-chain data and see the cool things that you can devise, either just analysis for your own trades, or just for curiosity, or for products like BRC20, et cetera, et cetera. Like, the world's your oyster with BRC, with on-chain data, and like not enough people are doing it. So like, I highly encourage everyone to get stuck in. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody. So on my side, you can find me on Dune, of course, CryptoCoryo, same as on Twitter. And you can also, I have actually also a Substack newsletter where I publish my thoughts every Sunday, which is, and the link is in the bio on my Twitter. And as others have said, keep exploring, keep being curious, and eventually good things will happen. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone for being here. It was another great space here with MetricsDAO. Just want to remind everyone of the next session next week, same time. You can follow MetricsDAO for cool Web3 analytics challenges, content, and education. So we got webinars from data partners, this weekly Twitter space, and of course, we always got our Discord if you want to find out and learn more. Thanks again, everyone, for speaking. Thank you, Domo. Thank you, Corio. Thank you, Kunal, Tom, Carlos, David, you as well. Shout out to Andrew, who was here earlier from Dune. And big shout out to everyone in the audience. Thanks for being here and making this an amazing experience and an insightful event. Thanks, everyone. See you all next time.